Hey guys, tonight we slip into the frost-bitten boots of a Viking shieldmaiden. You're not a legend, not yet, but you've got a shield, a blade, and the kind of bruises that make people think twice before asking you to churn butter. It's early morning in your coastal village, the kind of morning that makes your breath puff like a dragon's from your nose. A smoky haze hangs low inside your longhouse, caught between the thatched rafters and the slowly dying hearth fire. The air smells of ash, wet wool, and something vaguely goat-like. You'd like to believe it's just the blanket. You're on the edge of your straw-stuffed bedding boots Hoffen, listening to the muted thuds of others waking up. Someone snores, probably Rangya again. She's all brawn and no shame, that one. Your muscles complain as you sit up. Yesterday's sparring left a welt across your ribs and a soreness in your sword hand that no amount of mead fixes. You grope around for your tunic, still damp from yesterday's sleet. No one in the Viking world invented fast-drying fabric, but you tug it over your head anyway. The chill slips down your back like an uninvited eel. The only consolation: everyone else in this room smells just as bad as you do. You shuffle past sleeping limbs and overturned wooden bowls to stoke the hearth, adding a few sticks and a hopeful breath. The flames cough to life, and a little warmth crawls into your toes. Outside, the sun barely flickers along the horizon, golden but distant, like it's not fully committed. There's no alarm clock, here just the low, familiar grumbling of livestock and the rooster who clearly hates you. You throw open the longhouse door, squinting against a wind so sharp it feels personal. Your breath fogs instantly, your eyes water, and your nostrils regret the decision. But out there your world awaits. The shore is visible through the smoke, lined with boats, and men too proud to admit they're freezing. Women haul water in sloshing wooden buckets, their skirts frozen stiff at the hem. You nod at Brynhildr, your childhood friend turned sparring rival. She nods back, without smiling. That's Viking friendship, low on grins, high on shared stitches. You return inside to a bubbling iron pot of something that could legally be called porridge if you look at it too long. Barley, crushed nuts, maybe dried berries if you're lucky. You scoop some into a wooden bowl and sit on a bench worn smooth by dozens of rears before yours. Beside you, Einar, your younger brother, shovels food into his mouth like it's fleeing. He gestures wildly about a dream where a horse talked to him in Latin. You consider asking how he knows Latin, but decide your brain isn't awake enough for that conversation. Across from you, Ragna curses as she realizes someone used her comb to clean a boot. Again, her solution is to throw the comb into the fire with dramatic flair. You chew your porridge and pretend not to watch, like everyone else. There's something oddly soothing about morning chaos in a Viking longhouse. You take a sip of watered-down medius for breakfast. Don't judge. Water is often unreliable, and besides, mead has honey, so technically it's health food. You stare into the hearth. Today's your day off from guard duty, which means you're expected to train harder. Logical? No, but very Viking. You pull your cloak around your shoulders and head to the back of the longhouse where your gear hangs. Your mail shirt still has last week's mud caked into the rings, and the leather underlayer smells like it once had feelings. You buckle the belt, secure your arm guards, and test the feel of your axe in your palm. It's still yours, still familiar. Historians still argue whether Viking shieldmaidens fought as equals in every battle, or served more ritual and protective roles at home. You know you're more than capable. You've broken bones, taken scars, and you've got the unspoken respect of half the village, at least the half smart enough not to underestimate you. As you step outside, your boots crunch over frost-hardened earth. You tighten the fur around your shoulders and glance up. Ravens circle above, 3 of them. A good omen, a sign Odin's watching. Possibly both. The village smells like wood smoke and salted fish, and somewhere near the forge, someone's singing terribly off-key. It's comforting in its own way, like knowing no one in your immediate circle is being sacrificed today. You pass a group of children throwing bones for luck near the fire pit. One of them is trying to teach a chicken to sit. The chicken seems unimpressed. You make your way toward the training field. There, in the middle of this icy world, you not a daughter or sister or background villager. You a force of will and calloused palms. You roll your shoulders, grip your axe, and take your place on the frost-bitten ground. Let the day begin. Your boots dig into the cold-packed earth as you make your way across the field. The grass is frozen stiff, the kind of ground that refuses to yield no matter how many warriors crash into it. You hear the clatter of wooden shields, the dull thunk of practice blades hitting practice armor, and the occasional cry of "that was my knee," which, to be fair, is a common morning greeting around here. The training field isn't anything grand. No polished arena, no cheering spectators, just a wide patch of dirt. A few hay dummies skewered on spears, and a circle of warriors in various stages of readiness. Some are warming up. Others are already bruised and muttering about how they're definitely pulling something this time. You tighten your grip on your axe. It's a single-handed, bearded blade, practical and deadly. Not the kind of thing you'd use to chop wood, unless you really hated trees. The handle's wrapped in rough leather, worn smooth in the middle where your palm rests. You've been swinging this thing since you could barely lift it. It's more of a friend than Einar, honestly. At least the axe never eats your bread and lies about it. Nearby, a group is gathered around a weapons rack that's more splinters than structure. Swords, spears, even a club someone swears is just a reinforced walking stick. You and Brynhildr eye the same sword. It's not yours, but it's a fine piece, broad, balanced, and possibly stolen. She shrugs and lets you take it. Her weapon of choice is a long-handled spear with etched rings near the tip, one for each battle she's walked away from. You nod in silent thanks and step into the sparring circle. There's no announcement. No one rings a bell or shouts round one. You just meet your partner's eyes, circle each other like wary cats, and then she lunges first, always does. Brynhildr leads with a high feint and sweeps low, trying to catch your ankle. You hop back, turn the dodge into a spin, and bring the sword around with a sharp whistle through the air. She blocks it with the shaft of her spear, but the force rattles her grip. The cold makes everything heavier. Your limbs feel slower. Your breath puffs out in short gasps. But the rhythm strike, block, shift, duck, it's familiar, almost meditative. Around you, the field hums with the sound of combat. Somewhere, a younger recruit yelps in surprise after catching a shield edge to the nose. A mentor chuckles softly, like that's a learning moment. Spoiler, it is. You and Brynhildr dance back and forth, blades and shafts flashing under the pale sun. Neither of you is trying to win. Not really. This isn't a duel, it's a dialogue in metal and muscle. A way to stay sharp, to test each other, to make sure neither gets soft during the long winter lull. You break apart, breathing hard. She grins, more of a smirk. Rilliand taps your shoulder with her spear tip. "That's one," she murmurs. You roll your eyes and say nothing. The unspoken score is always kept, even if the victories are just glancing taps. Historians still argue whether Viking training routines were formally organized or simply a way of life. Some say entire villages drilled together in formations. Others suggest the best fighters learned through lived experience, defense, tavern brawls. Based on how often your sessions dissolve into chaos, you're inclined to believe both theories. Structured, yes, but loosely. Like a well-planned feast that always ends in someone wrestling a goat. After the match, you take a moment to check your armor. The shoulder strap is starting to fray again. You make a mental note to patch it later or threaten Einar into doing it. You also notice that someone smeared ash over the back of your helmet, probably as a prank. Again, you consider payback involving a dead fish under someone's bed. You move on to drills shield work this time. You join a row of other warriors, male and female alike, forming a half circle and advancing with interlocked shields. The instructor, a man with one eye and two bad knees, barks orders. Step, brace, shove. You obey, letting the rhythm sync you with your neighbors. The shield wall is sacred, not just wood and iron. It's trust, muscle memory, timing. If one person stumbles, the line folds. If everyone holds, you're nearly unstoppable. You repeat the maneuver again and again. Your arms start to ache, your legs burn, your breath comes shallow. But there's a grim satisfaction in it. You feel your body strengthening. You imagine the next time you board a foreign shore, shield raised, heart pounding. Eventually, the drill ends, and the formation disperses into laughter, mock insults, and breathless flopping into the snowbanks. You lean against your shield, savoring the cold air on your flushed face. Off to the side, you catch sight of a group trying out a sling. They're awful at it. One stone whizzes past a goat, which retaliates by charging at the nearest teenager. You watch as he flees, screaming and giggling, dropping his sling in the snow. Quirky fact of the day. Some shieldmaidens were known to carry slings as backup weapons. Easy to hide, easier to use, and occasionally useful for stunning a fish or an enemy's nose. You stifle a laugh, wipe your brow, and take a long swig from your water skin. It tastes like iron and pine resin. You pretend it's refreshing. There's no brake horn, no lunch whistle. When you're hungry, you stop. When you're tired, you push a little longer. That's the Viking way. Hardship builds strength. After all, or at least really thick calluses. The training wraps up with an informal brawla, free-for-all, where everyone agrees on no eye gouging and mostly pull your punches. It devolves quickly. You stay on the sidelines this time, arms crossed, watching Brynhildr flip a man twice her size over her hip with a delighted grunt. When the dust settles and the laughter fades, you gather your gear and head back toward the longhouse. The sun's risen a little higher now, casting golden light through the haze. Your muscles are sore, your hands are scraped, and you're grinning like a lunatic. Another morning survived, another skill honed, and now, breakfast round 2. You push open the longhouse door with a thud, the weight of it dragging slightly against the uneven threshold. Inside, the warmth hits you like a soft blanket wood smoke, roasting fish, and the lingering scent of damp wool and animal fat. It's not fancy, but it smells like survival, and right now, that's enough. The hearth is still glowing, embers poking through ash like fireflies. A woman stirs a bubbling pot that might be stew or might be porridge. Find out soon enough. You nod to her, and she waves a wooden ladle in return, as if you're late for something. You're not. But longhouse mothers tend to treat everything like a missed appointment with destiny. You shed your training cloak, which is still half frozen from the early morning frost, and make your way to the bench nearest the fire. Your stomach growls so loudly it startles the dog sleeping underneath. He grumbles, shifts, and resumes snoring. This is your second breakfast, technically. The first was more of a pre-battle snack. Now you eat in earnest. A wooden bowl of barley gruel, thick as mud and sprinkled with dried berries. A slice of cold smoked fish, 2 hard-boiled eggs, and a slab of oat bread tougher than the skull of the last man you hit with your shield. You tear off a bite, chewing slowly, letting the heat soak back into your hands and feet. Around you, warriors filter in laughing, groaning, slapping snow off their cloaks. Brynhildr flops down beside you and immediately starts peeling an egg with one hand while adjusting her leg wrappings with the other. Your footwork's improving, she says, through a mouthful of bread. Almost tripped me twice. You raise an eyebrow. Almost. Don't get cocky, she replies, grinning. Behind her, someone trips over the threshold, sending a jug of goat milk flying. It lands, miraculously upright, but now smells faintly of shoe. There's an easy rhythm to meals here. No assigned seats, no order of service. Just eat what's warm and be ready to share stories. Someone launches into a tale about a sea monster off the Orkney coast, all tentacles and teeth and shimmering green eyes. The rest of the table interrupts gleefully, poking holes in the story and adding their own ridiculous flourishes. Historians still argue whether Viking longhouses functioned more like communal halls or extended family dwellings. Yours is both. Part barracks, part home, part impromptu debate stage for whether fish can in fact climb trees during particularly rainy years. A younger girl, maybe 14, sits near the hearth, mending a tunic. She looks up at you and asks, with a hopeful sort of squint, "Is it true shieldmaidens used to drink snake blood before battle?" You pause, mid-chew. "No," you say flatly, then add, "But I did once drink mead with a dead snake in the jug. Probably didn't help." She makes a face, then giggles, and goes back to stitching. The truth is, your life isn't all training and rating. A lot of it is this. The quiet in-between: patch the tunic, sharpen the axe, split the wood, complain about your splinters, and always eat when you can. A bell-like clang rings out near the door, someone calling for volunteers for the afternoon shift on the fish racks. You look away quickly. You did your time last week. The smell lingers for days, and you're still not over the eels. Instead, you help clear the meal, stacking bowls in a crooked pile by the wash basin, and tossing scraps to the longhouse dog, who now looks far more awake. You ruffle his ears. He sneezes. Then it's time for a chore you can't skip: checking your gear. You retrieve your armor from its hook near your bedroll and lay it out on the table. The leather's stiff in the cold. The metal rings slightly dulled. You run your fingers over each strap, each rivet. The small gash in the shoulder is worse than you thought. You grab your repair kit, a tangle of gut thread, bent needles, and one good Allen. Get to work. It's slow, precise, and a little hypnotic. The kind of task where your hands remember what your brain doesn't need to tell them. Across the room, someone is singing, softly, a lullaby maybe, or a funeral song. In Old Norse, the two sound remarkably alike. The longhouse door creaks open again, letting in a burst of wind and a warrior with cheeks red from the cold. "Messenger from the coast," he says, brushing snow from his shoulders. "A ship's due tomorrow, might be trade, might be trouble." Everyone perks up. Trade means new fabrics, exotic spices, maybe even coin. Trouble means glory. Either way, it's something different. You tuck the repaired armor away and pretend your pulse hasn't quickened. Quirky fact: some Viking traders were known to carry pouches of dyed pebbles not for currency, but to trick rivals into thinking they had valuable gems. You once tried it, nearly got you punched in Novgorod. Back at your bunk, you unroll your blanket and shake out yesterday's crumbs. A sliver of daylight sneaks through the shutter, just enough to reveal the notched beam where you've been tallying each season survived. 5 winters so far. Not bad for someone who once thought chainmail meant a very heavy letter. Someone calls your name from outside. You recognize the voice. It's Freya, the craftswoman who's been working on a new batch of throwing knives. You promised to test them. You sigh, grab your cloak, and head out once more into the cold. Another chore, another chance to stay sharp, to stay alive. And if the snow crunches a little louder under your boots, well, maybe it's just the sound of things moving beneath the surface. You follow the voice through the winding paths between the longhouses, ducking beneath dangling fish guts, and ducking again under a drying rack of leather gloves. Freya's forge is tucked at the edge of the village, where the wind hits hardest and the smoke always seems to blow directly into your face. As you approach, sparks fly like fireflies around the doorway. The rhythmic clang of hammer on metal rings through the era sound so common here it's almost background music. The forge glows inside like a beast's belly, alive and roaring. You step in, and immediately your cheeks flush from the heat. Freya glances up, strands of copper hair plastered to her forehead. She grins. "Took you long enough," she says, handing you a cloth-wrapped bundle. 3 blades. Try not to lose any this time. You unwrap them slowly. They're beautiful in the way weapons sometimes are: precise, balanced, almost delicate. Throwing knives, each about the length of your hand, with hilts wrapped in dyed wool and tiny runes scratched into the steel. Decorative, maybe. Magical, possibly. Superstitious, definitely. "Did you oil them?" you asked. She snorts. "Of course, I oiled them. What do I look like? A Frankish cobbler?" You laugh and slide the knives into your belt. The throwing range is just behind the forge's open patch of frozen earth dotted with stumps, straw men, and one unfortunate barrel that has become more holes than wood. You warm up your arm with a few stretches, crack your knuckles, and step into position. First, knife dead center. Second, just to the left. Third, third bounces off the edge and lands somewhere near your foot. "Still got it," you mutter, retrieving the blade. Freya claps sarcastically. "Maybe try aiming next time, warrior queen." Historians still argue whether Viking women trained as warriors in large numbers, or whether figures like you were rare exceptions. You like to think there were more of you, plenty of strong arms and sharper minds, who just didn't leave behind the same kind of fame as the Blood Eagle kings. You throw again, this time adjusting your stance. 2 knives land perfectly, the third, still rebellious. Maybe it's cursed, you joke. Freya raises an eyebrow. Only if it's smarter than you. You spend the next hour throwing, retrieving, throwing again. Muscle memory builds through repetition, and soon you're hitting the mark more often than not. You even start playing a game imagining each straw dummy as someone annoying from your past. That one's the merchant who shorted you a silver coin in Jorvik. That one's the Jarl's cousin who insisted women couldn't aim with both eyes open. And that particularly ratty dummy in the back. The boy who stole your carving knife when you were 10 and said girls only needed needles. He gets hit square in the chest, twice. Your breath clouds the air now, and your fingers are going stiff. Freya waves you in, handing over a mug of something hot and a little suspiciously thick. You sip. It's a broth, salty, herbal, and somehow filled with tiny bits of dried mushroom. Taste that, she says, secret ingredient, birch bark, keeps your gut clean. You pause mid-sip. I thought that was for tanning leather. She shrugs, same principle. You take another, more cautious sip. It's not bad. The two of you sit in companionable silence for a while, watching the forge smoke twist up into the gray sky. A raven circles overhead, another joins it, then a third. You both follow their lazy spiral. Quirky fact, some Viking warriors believed ravens were messengers of Odin, but also, more practically, flying meat alarms. Sea ravens, dead things, are nearby, useful in battle and in farming. You watch them until they vanish into the tree line. Then Freya turns to you, her voice quieter. You think you'll be on the crew tomorrow, she asks. You know what she means, the trade ship or raiding ship, depending on what news the messenger brings. They haven't announced the crew yet, but names will be called by dusk. I hope so, you say, but I'm not holding my breath. She gives a small nod, like she understands too well. Then she leans closer. If you get picked, take the wolf's tooth with you. You frown. The one from the pendant. Yeah, I made a copy. It's not lucky, exactly. But I wore it the last time I came back alive. You don't question her logic. Not here, not now. You just accept it and slip the tiny charm into your pouch without another word. A breeze kicks up. The fire flickers. The sky is beginning to turn that strange, flat gray blue of afternoon in the Northlands, neither bright nor dark, just suspended. You stand, brush the dust from your cloak, and thank her. She waves you off and turns back to her forge, already hammering again before you've made it 10 steps. Back at the longhouse, the mood is shifting. People are sharpening weapons a little more carefully, whispering names, wondering who'll be chosen. You notice someone carving a runic message onto the inside of their belt, a kind of prayer, maybe, or insurance. You sit and pull out your own belt, considering whether to do the same. Then you remember the wolf's tooth in your pouch and figure that's enough belief for one day. You stretch your arms, check your throwing knives one more time, and wait for the call. The sun drags low across the sky, a lazy orange smear just above the tree line. You're perched near the longhouse doorway, half sitting, half fidgeting with the binding on your wrist guard. Your fingers are restless, your mind more so. Everyone's pretending not to care. Some are mending cloaks or braiding hair. Others lean casually against walls, sipping from shared horns, like this is just any other evening. But you can feel it, the tightness in the air, the anticipation simmering under every calm expression. Then the call comes, a conch horn, deep and low, echoing through the village like a sleeping beast groaning to life. You rise before your brain even gives the order, your body already moving toward the gathering square. The Jarl is there, standing atop the speakers, stone old slab that once marked someone's grave, now used for more practical announcements. His beard has fresh beads in it, and someone's braided his eyebrows again, for reasons you've never fully understood. Looks like two tiny ropes growing sideways off his face. A few dozen villagers gather, circling the stone. The Jarl clears his throat, but says nothing at first. Just holds up a carved staff, part symbol of office, part walking stick, and probably part fly swatter. You shift your weight. Freya stands beside you now, arms crossed, her face unreadable. A child wiggles through the crowd, holding a goat on a leash. No one questions it, and then the names begin. One by one, the Jarl calls them, slowly, letting each name land and ripple through the crowd. Some elicit cheers, some sighs. One guy gets elbowed hard by his sister and nearly falls over. Each name is followed by a nod or a quiet eye, and the person stepping forward to receive a mark of inclusia, red-dyed armband, or a leather token. You strain to listen. The Jarl's voice isn't loud. It's gravelly, textured, like a sack of small stones being shaken around. Then your name. He says it plainly, not with fanfare. Just another stone dropped into the still pond. Your heart thuds. You step forward, trying not to sprint or trip over your own feet. He looks you over, then holds out a strip of red cloth. "Don't die," he mutters, and moves on to the next name. You tie the armband yourself tight, just above the elbow. It stands out vividly against your rough-spun sleeve, a flash of color in a mostly brown world. Freya gives you a tiny nod. You know her name wasn't called. She doesn't seem surprised, just says, "Try not to get seasick." You almost laugh. Instead, you clench your fists a few times and focus on breathing. The crowd disperses. Some head to the mead hall. Others drift back to their homes to pack or prepare. The sky continues its long, reluctant descent into dusk. You re-pulled aside by one of the quartermasters, a wiry woman with a voice like gravel and a walking limp you've never dared ask about. She hands you a bundle of gear, a small axe, a bowl, a carved wooden comb, and a tightly wrapped bundle of dried fish. "Ship leaves at dawn," she says. "Don't forget extra socks." Mainstream historical fact. Viking raiding crews were expected to provide their own supplies. That included weapons, bedding, food rations, and yes, changes of clothing. There wasn't some central army with uniform kits. You brought what you could carry and hoped it would be enough. You stash the bundle in your longhouse and begin assembling the rest of your gear. Your shield, which still bears the faded paint of your old clan colors. Your sixta, wide, blunt-edged knife everyone carries, good for both slicing bread and slicing enemies. And of course, the wolf's tooth Freya gave you, which you now tie into a small braid near your collarbone, letting it hang like a quiet secret. Packing is practical, but it's also strange. You stare at a small carving you've been working on for months. Walrus tusk turned into a tiny, snarling bear. Part lucky charm, part stress relief. You want to take it, but you also want to leave something behind, in case you don't return. You leave the bear on your bunk, where the pillow would be if you had one. Someone pokes their head in. Ingrid, one of the rowers. "Celebration at the fire pit," she says. "Come if you want to drink, or don't, but it might be your last cup for a while." You go. At the center of the village, a fire blazes like a miniature sun. People are already gathered, those going, those staying. It's a mix of excitement and quiet fear, masked by bravado and too much ale. Someone's playing a lyre, clumsily, but it adds charm. Two kids are dancing in a circle, oblivious to the tension around them. You take a seat near the edge and are handed a horn of mead by a man who may or may not be related to you. You nod your thanks, either way. Quirky fact: Viking mead recipes often included unexpected ingredients like bog myrtle, tree bark, and sometimes, strangely, henbane, a psychoactive plant that might explain some of the weirder decisions made on the open sea. You sip carefully. A woman near the fire is telling a story, something about a giant sea serpent and a shipwreck and a hero who had to cut open a whale from the inside. It's all a bit dramatic, but no one's correcting her. You settle into the warmth, the noise, the smell of burning pine and singed hair. Someone hands you a round of smoked seal meat. It tastes better than you expected. You think about asking for the recipe, then realize no one probably wrote it down. That's the thing here, nothing is written. Everything is passed hand to hand, story to story, scar to scar. You glance up at the stars, just beginning to prick through the sky. The North Star holds steady, and you let your gaze rest on it. It's said that Odin's eye watches from the heavens. But honestly, tonight it just looks like a helpful dot in the sky. You'll be grateful for tomorrow. Eventually, you return to your longhouse. Others have already curled up in furs, sleeping the anxious sleep of those headed into the unknown. You don't lie down yet. Instead, you sit cross-legged, looking at your packed things, your weapons, your rations, your little pieces of meaning. Historians still argue whether Viking raids were acts of desperate survival or deliberate empire building. You're not sure either way. All you know is that when the ship sails, you'll be on it, with your red armband, with your throwing knives, with your wolf's tooth, and with a quiet, stubborn hope that you'll come back. You wake before the sun, not because you're eager, but because your body simply refuses to rest. The darkness is thick, almost syrupy, and the longhouse is full of heavy breathing, the occasional creak of wood, and the slow hiss of someone pulling their cloak tighter in their sleep. You sit up quietly, pull your boots on, one at a time. They're still damp from yesterday's snowmelt, and your toes curl instinctively. You grab your pack, your belt, and your axe. Everything else is already stowed away in your head mental checklists, cycling on repeat. When you step outside, the cold smacks you in the face with the enthusiasm of an unpaid debt collector. You take it in stride. The village is muffled, not silent, but softened by the hour. Distant sounds from the shore, maybe the ship creaking or ropes being tugged taut. You trudge in that direction, feet crunching the thin crust of frost over earth. At the dock, torchlight flickers like nervous thoughts. The longship Wetsa, sleek, elegant beast, carved from oak, with a curling prow, shaped like a serpent's head. Its hull sits low in the water, already loaded with barrels, bundles, and a few restless goats meant for trade or emergency stew. You're not the first to arrive. A few others are already there, checking ropes, muttering quietly, adjusting oars. Some are as calm as still water. Others radiate jitters, chattering teeth, unnecessary checking of their gear, a lot of throat clearing. You don't blame them. One man is pacing so fast, you'd think he was trying to wear a trench into the dock. Another is trying to calm a goat. The goat is winning. You find your spot third row, right-hand side, or, in its place, carved with a grip that's been worn smooth by years of calluses. You run your hand over it, still solid. A woman named Solveig steps into place across from you. She nods. She has a scar along her jaw and a voice like crushed gravel when she speaks. You ever rowed across open sea before? Only once, you reply. Didn't throw up too much. Good. That means we won't have to tie you to the mast. You smirk. It's a joke. Mostly. Rowing on a Viking longship isn't like the movies. It's not a grand, heroic task where everyone moves in perfect rhythm, muscles gleaming in the sun. It's brutal, repetitive. Your back will ache, your hands will blister, and your inner ear will question all your life choices. Mainstream historical fact. Viking longships could average around 5 to 10 knots depending on wind and crew strength. That meant you could cover over 100 miles in a day if conditions were favorable. If they weren't, well, that's why oars were mandatory. You help secure the final load baskets of dried peas, axes wrapped in fur, a wooden chest that definitely smells like pickled herring, and take your seat. The Jarl himself doesn't sail. He never does. Instead, command falls to the ship's captain, a stern woman named Yrsa, who carries her authority like a second weapon. She steps aboard, counts heads with a single sweep of her eyes, and grunts once. Push off. The crew moves like a creature with many arms. Ropes are loosed. Poles are jammed against the muddy shallows to guide the ship out. And just like that, with the creak of wood and splash of oars, you're leaving the shore. No songs, no farewells, just the hiss of frost on the water and the rhythmic splash of your oar slicing forward. Quirky fact, some Viking crews would chew birch bark while rowing, not for flavor, but to stave off hunger, keep their teeth clean, and in some cases, get mildly buzzed from natural compounds in the sap. You chew on nothing and wish you'd remembered to pack some. The coastline shrinks behind you. Fields and fences give way to forest, then to hills, then nothing at all but fog. The longship glides like a predator, silent except for the beat of oars and the occasional goat complaint. The hours stretch. Rowing becomes a trance. Muscles take over. Your mind wanders. Solveig coughs once every 3 minutes. The man behind you hums tunelessly, then stops, then starts again. You count waves, watch seabirds, avoid looking at the horizon too long. The sail is raised once the wind picks up. White canvas unfurls like a summoned ghost, catching the gust with a snap that rattles your bones. The ship leans forward slightly, riding the momentum. You rest your oar, rotate your shoulder, and drink some tepid water from your skin. Someone retches over the side. Not you, thank the gods. Historians still argue whether women on Viking ships were there for fighting, for trade, or as part of settlement missions. You'd argue there's no difference. If you're here, you're expected to pull your weight literally and figuratively. The day stretches long. Eventually, land is out of sight. Only water now, cold, endless water beneath and around. The sea's not rough, but it's never still. The boat rocks and hums beneath your body like a great living drum. By dusk, the wind has slackened, and the sail is taken down. Back to oars, back to the beat. Your hands are blistered. Your lower back is sending rude signals to your brain. You know the worst is still ahead. Night falls in layers, a darkening blue, then gray, then a velvet black that swallows everything. Torches are lit along the ship, but their glow is small, flickering. You eat by moonlight flatbread and dried fish. The bread is hard enough to chip a tooth, The fish tastes like punishment. You lay back on your pack, staring at stars you almost recognize. The sea gurgles around you. Your muscles twitch, not yet sure they're allowed to stop. Sleep won't come quickly. You shift, adjust, try again. And eventually, the sound of water, the slap of waves, the breathing of exhausted warriors, all of it becomes a lullaby. You drift, dream of wolves running across the waves. You wake with your cheek pressed against the edge of your shield, not by choice, by necessity. The morning sea has a rude way of announcing itself. Sharp spray, bitter wind, and the unmistakable nausea of movement without control. A few groans ripple across the deck. Someone curses in Old Norse under their breath. You sit up slowly, body stiff from sleeping on a wooden bench with only your cloak for warmth. The world is cold, gray, and wet. Welcome back. You reach for a chunk of hard cheese from your pack and gnaw at it while trying not to look directly at the horizon. Your stomach growls in protest, too hungry to be seasick, too seasick to enjoy anything. The sail is raised again. The wind today is strong but steady, and the ship surges forward like it actually wants to get somewhere. You pull your wool cloak tighter and brace your legs to keep balanced. The salt has worked its way into your boots. Everything you own smells like the ocean, including you. The captain calls for a shift change. You get a break from rowing, just not from responsibility. Instead, you're handed a wide bowl and told to bail water. Apparently, the hull has sprung a few cheerful leaks overnight. You squat near the bilge and start scooping seawater into buckets, rhythmically and resentfully. Mainstream historical fact. Viking longships weren't nailed watertight like later European ships. They used a clever system of overlapping planks sealed with animal hair, resin, or even wool soaked in tar. But leaks still happened, especially in older ships or colder waters. Hence, buckets, lots of buckets. As you toss another slosh over the side, you notice the sky ahead is beginning to brighten, not from the sun, but from smoke. A faint gray smudge, barely there on the horizon. Land. And maybe people. Yrsa confirms it after checking a small carved piece of whalebone she uses as a rudimentary sun compass. We're ahead of schedule, she announces. Solveig raises an eyebrow, which probably means they're behind schedule. You don't know who they are, but you get the sense she means the people you're planning to trade or fight with. Quirky fact. Viking navigators didn't just use stars or the sun. They also relied on seabirds, watercolor, wave patterns, and sometimes even captured ravens released to see which way they flew. One scholar even argued that Viking women may have been better at reading wave behavior due to their experience with fishing and shoreline work, but historians still argue whether that was true or just romantic speculation. By midday, the coastline grows closer. It's not exactly welcoming. Jagged rocks, pine forests hunched like conspirators, and narrow beaches where no one sane would choose to picnic. A few stone dwellings can be seen, half sunken into the hills. This isn't a wealthy town, but it's something. The ship slows as you near the cove. Oars dig in to guide it between rocks. Yrsa doesn't even raise her voice. She doesn't have to. Everyone knows their role. You take your place at the bow, axe slung across your back, a small pouch of silver tucked in your belt in case things go better than expected. No one greets you at first. The beach is empty, just kelp, driftwood, and gulls. But then figures, small, distant ones, moving slowly, cautiously from the tree line. A handful of men, cloaked with long staves and the distinctive wariness of people who've hosted Vikings before. You stay aboard while Yrsa and two others disembark. There are gestures, cautious words exchanged in a mishmash of Norse and the local tonguesome early version of Scots or Pictish, maybe. You can't quite hear. You watch their body language instead. Nobody's smiling, but nobody's attacking either. Good enough. Eventually, barrels are rolled ashore. In return, rough sacks are hoisted aboard, likely wool, smoked meat, maybe mead. A lopsided sheep wanders near the ship and bleats with what sounds like judgment. You're ordered to stand guard. Not glamorous, but important. You rest your hand on your axe and stare out into the trees, watching for movement. That's when you notice a girl no older than 10 peeking from behind a pine, her face half hidden under a filthy cloak. She stares at the ship like it's some kind of dragon. You give her a small wave. She doesn't wave back, but she doesn't run either. There's an awkward kind of beauty to these moments, fragile truces stitched together with mutual suspicion and just enough need to make it work. Eventually, the trade is done. No blood, no betrayals. The ship is heavier now, lower in the water, but the mood has lifted. Yrsa comes aboard and mutters, "They say there's a storm to the east." So naturally, we head west. The wind favors you again. The sail snaps open. Oars rest. You pull your cloak up and sit beside Salvig, who est chewing on a strip of dried elk meat and glaring at the horizon like it owes her money. She glances at you. You know where we're headed next? No idea. She nods approvingly. That's the right attitude. You laugh, tired, genuine. The ship rocks gently. The sun dips behind a curtain of clouds, and the ocean turns to iron. Behind you, the coast disappears. Ahead, more water, more days, more uncertainty. Historians still argue whether Viking voyages were meticulously planned or mostly improvised. Based on the look Yrsa gave her son Compass, you're starting to think a bit of both is the answer. You lean back, let your shoulders relax, and try to let the rhythm of the waves trick your bones into calm again. You're not at war yet. Not today. Dawn comes late and slow at sea, as if the sky itself is reluctant to wake up. You stretch with a grunt, your joints complaining like an old cartwheel, and blink away the dew gathering in your eyelashes. The long ship creaks beneath you. Every breath you take smells of damp timber, salt, and something suspiciously fishy. You sit up and immediately regret it. Your back is sore. Your thighs are sore. Even your sore bits have sore bits. Your shield's pressed into your side like a disapproving pet. But there's no time for that. Today's going to be another long stretch of rowing. Yrsa's already up, staring into the wind like she's waiting for a prophecy. She doesn't speak, just gestures. You know the look. It means grab an oar in all Viking dialects, so you do. You and 9 others settle into place, oarlocks groaning, arms groaning louder. The ship glides over the gray-blue waves like a hungry animal sniffing for shore. Everyone's quiet, half awake, chewing bread or dried herring between strokes. Mainstream historical fact. Viking ships were incredibly fast and shallow-bottomed, allowing them to sail up rivers, hug coastlines, and retreat before anyone could mount a counterattack. That made them perfect for raiding, but also for long-distance trade and exploration. The same boats that raided monasteries were used to deliver timber to Baghdad and walrus ivory to Byzantium. Today, though, It feels like your boat is powered by collective misery and goat cheese. You're paddling through thick fog, which makes it feel like you're rowing through wet wool. Quirky fact: Vikings believed in sea spirits and creatures that lived in the fog. Some sagas speak of massive fish mistaken for islands or serpents long enough to circle a ship. One tale claims that fog itself was the breath of Jarmangander, the world serpent, sighing in its sleep, which honestly feels plausible at the moment. Somewhere in the distance, you hear gulls arguing. Yrsa orders the sail furled. "We're near the coast," she says. "Don't want to announce ourselves." A few heads nod. Others grumble. One man promptly drops his oar on his own foot and yells something about Odin and toes. You bite your cheek not to laugh. The fog begins to lift by mid-morning, revealing a coastline that's definitely unfamiliar. Rocky hills, sparse trees, and Fenolia village. Not a grand city, but something defensible, with a stockade wall and smoke curling from turf-roofed huts, probably Frankish. Solveig frowns. They've got pigs. That's good. For us or for them. Both. They'll trade or run. You glance at Yrsa. If they're smart, they'll give us cheese and bread. If not, ... well, then we're staying longer. The ship is rowed into a narrow inlet, hugging the coastline like a shadow. You're on edge. Everyone is. This is the dangerous part. You're close enough to see figures moving in the village, children dashing behind buildings. A man with a hoe staring in disbelief as a Viking longship slides silently toward his cabbage patch. No weapons are drawn, not yet. You keep your axe tucked under your cloak, though your fingers itch toward the handle. Yrsa, Solveig, and two of the men hop out first. Again, the same ritual. Hands up, slow movements, shouted greetings, in broken Frankish. You stay aboard, watching with narrowed eyes. The villagers don't run. That's a good sign. They send out a woman tall, older, with arms like cured meat, and a look that says she's seen worse than you. She and Yrsa talk. You catch bits and pieces. Grain, tools, safe passage. Historians still argue whether these peaceful trades were the norm or the exception. The truth likely sits in between. The same Viking crew that offered silver for honey one day might come back swinging axes the next. Depending on wind, mood, and how stale the hardtack was. Today, peace wins. You're invited to shore carefully, one at a time. No weapons visible. You follow instructions, stepping off onto muddy earth that squishes under your boots. The village smells like sheep, herbs, and something bubbling in a cauldron that you hope is soup. The elder woman offers a hunk of bread. You offer some of your salt. That's how it goes. Tinny exchanges that might stave off bloodshed. You're led to a crude longhouse to rest. Inside, it's dark but warm. There's straw on the floor and two goats eyeing you with open disdain. You try to sit without offending them. A child sneaks closer to touch your sword hilt. You wink. They shriek and flee, giggling. You're not sure if that counts as intimidation or diplomacy. As you rest, you hear Yrsa explaining something to the locals, likely the same practiced speech she gives in every village. We're passing through. We trade, honestly. We ask for food, not blood. She never mentions what happens when people say no. That part doesn't need saying. You're offered soup. It's lukewarm and includes what might be turnip, onion, and snail. You slurp it anyway, grateful for something that isn't dried. Quirky aside, one 10th century Frankish record mentions offering Vikings a stew made from hedgehog, chickpeas, and garlic. Historians still argue whether that was real or just exaggerated by monks who wanted to make their enemies seem uncivilized. The villagers watch you like you might sprout wings. You finish your soup, thank them in halting Frankish, and return to the ship. The mood is lighter now. The crew jokes. One man tries to juggle apples. Someone starts a bawdy song but gets shushed by Yrsa before the second verse. The longship pulls away from shore as the villagers wave hesitant but not unfriendly. You wave back. Not every Viking day ends in flames. Some end with soup. The tide pulls you farther westward now, the wind catching your sail just right, like the gods decided to be generous today. You lean your head back and close your eyes briefly as the spray cools your face. The sun's finally peeking out, and the sky has that rare northern blue, the kind you only get after days of storm-brewed gray. It's enough to make you believe in good omens. Solveig flops down next to you, her braid still dripping. "We'll hit the islands tomorrow," she says, around a mouthful of dried pear. "Yrsa wants to scout the big one first." You nod. Rumors said monks lived there, quiet, book-hoarding, wine-making monks. The kind of people who'd never pick up a sword, let alone swing one. So naturally, your crew's interested. The day passes without incident. You row when asked, bail water when needed, and stretch whenever you can. Your muscles ache, but it's a good ache, now familiar, like your body's learning what it means to live on a ship. Mainstream historical fact. Viking raiders often targeted isolated island monasteries, especially off the coast of Britain and Ireland. Places like Lindisfarne became infamous in records, not just for being raided, but for being utterly unprepared for it. These small religious communities were wealthy, quiet, and often defenseless, basically the medieval version of "please rob me." By dusk, the island comes into view. Not much to look at from Hera. Rocky hump with a few scraggly trees and a small settlement near the cliffs. No towers, no walls, just thatched buildings, huddled like sheep. Yrsa calls for silence. The sail is lowered. The oars go back in, and the long ship glides forward like a ghost. You grip your shield and axe, not for war, but for just in case. Even a peaceful raid can go wrong fast. Even monks can get twitchy. As you near shore, you smell smoke, but not the bad kind. Hearth smoke. Food. Quirky fact. Some records claim monks kept bees and made a kind of mead for rituals, or maybe just for fun. And according to one Norse tale, a Viking once mistook a monk's incense burner for a magical weapon and ran screaming from the chapel. Historians still argue whether that story's true or just monk propaganda. You land without resistance. The beach is narrow, scattered with seaweed and broken shells. The monks don't run, but they don't greet you either. Instead, they cluster near their chapel, muttering prayers and clutching crosses. One man, probably the abbot, steps forward, hands raised. He's barefoot and not trembling, which is surprising. Yrsa speaks in a low voice. The abbot answers, in Latin at first, then tries broken Norse. Between hand gestures and simple trade words, they manage a strange, delicate truce. No blood, no fire, just an agreement. You take what you need and leave the rest. You're sent in with 2 others to collect supplies. You walk through their little compound, noting the strange mix of humility and wealth. The buildings are plain, but inside you find books bound in leather, goblets lined with silver, even an oil lamp shaped like a lion. You pick it up. It's warm. Someone was just using it. Solveig pokes her head in. "Don't take the books," Yrsa said. No, God's getting angry today. You shrug and pocket a gold pendant instead discreetly. The monks don't fight you. Some won't look at you. One younger one stares, wide-eyed, like he's trying to memorize your face. You give him a wink. The ship is loaded, again modestly. Barrels of grain, a jug of honey wine, and a small wooden chest that jingles when moved. Probably offerings, or something meant for Rome. Not anymore. As the ship pulls away, the monks kneel and start singing. You watch them until the shore blurs. Why didn't they resist, you ask quietly. Yrsa doesn't answer for a moment. Then they believe they'll be rewarded in the next life. Easier to lose gold if you think you're buying heaven. You nod slowly, smart, or just desperate. The wind picks up. You wrap your cloak tighter and settle in for another night afloat. That's when you hear it, a low whistle, distant but growing. Then a snap. The sail jerks. Suddenly, someone shouts, "Brace." You drop flat, just in time for the boom to swing across the deck like a furious troll. It catches one crewman full in the chest. He grunts and drops, the wind knocked out of him. Others scramble to secure the ropes. A sudden squall, just like that. Clouds sweep in, erasing the stars. Rain pelts down as if hurled by giants. Yrsa takes the helm, barking orders. You're told to row not just for speed, but for survival. The oars cut through wild waves, lifting and dropping like the arms of some massive, shivering centipede. Historians still argue whether Viking women were present during high-risk raids like these, but there's growing consensus that experienced shieldmaidens like you weren't just token crew. You row just as hard as the men, harder, maybe, because you have more to prove. The ship groans. One plank near your knee creaks ominously. You glance down and see water pooling faster than it should. Not good. You shout the leak's location. 2 men leap to patch it with pitch and linen, the standard emergency fix. You keep rowing. That's all you can do. Wave after wave slaps the ship like it owes the sea money. Then silence. Not actual silence, but a sudden, strange lull. The wind dies, the rain eases. The sky opens, just enough to let moonlight dapple the water. You're in the eye, and you know what that means. Yrsa doesn't speak. She just looks at the horizon, jaw tight. Salvig exhales next to you. Let's hope we don't see the other side of this storm. You nod, no jokes now, just survival. You hold your oar loosely, heart pounding, waiting. The calm is brief, like a breath held too long. The storm reclaims the sky with a roar, wind howling through the rigging and waves pounding like giant fists on the hull. The ship pitches violently, each wave threatening to toss you overboard into the cold, hungry sea. You grip your shield strapped tighter, knuckles white, and plant your feet firmly on the slippery deck. Your heart hammers a wild rhythm, but your arms keep pulling the oars in steady, relentless strokes. The crew around you grunts and curses softly between the thunderclaps. Their faces pale but determined. Yrsa's voice cuts through the chaos. Calm and commanding despite the storm's fury. She barks instructions to bail water, adjust the sail, and brace for the next wave. Like she's fighting the weather itself with sheer will. You admire her even now. Her unshakable poise is the anchor that steadies everyone. Mainstream historical fact. Viking ships were marvels of engineering, built to withstand the North Atlantic's brutal conditions. Their flexible wooden hulls and overlapping planks allowed the vessels to bend with the waves rather than break. This resilience enabled Vikings to travel thousands of miles, from Scandinavia to Greenland and beyond, even in storms that would have sunk lesser ships. Between waves, you catch glimpses of the restless sea, dark, frothy, and seemingly endless. You can taste the salt on your lips and feel the sting of rain driving into your skin. The deck sways beneath your boots as the ship heaves and rolls, threatening to spill everything and everyone into the depths. Quirky fact: some sagas mention Viking sailors carrying small charms or luck stones to protect them from storms, including bits of whalebone or carved amber. One story tells of a shieldmaiden who kept a tiny rune-inscribed pebble in her pocket, swearing it kept the sea calm. Though historians still debate whether such beliefs were common or just poetic exaggerations. Amid the chaos, you remember a small knot of fishnets stored under the benches. Yrsa orders a quick check for damage, and you join two men pulling them out, water dripping from the frayed fibers. The nets are soaked, but mostly intact, lucky, since they're vital for catching fresh food on long voyages. As the storm finally begins to wane, the sky slowly lightens. Clouds part to reveal the faint glow of dawn, painting the sea in muted shades of gray and blue. Exhausted but alive, you take a moment to breathe deeply, the cold morning air filling your lungs and washing away some of the tension. Yrsa claps you on the shoulder, a rare smile breaking through her serious demeanor. "We made it," she says quietly. "Not every ship does." You nod, feeling the weight of those words settle in your chest. The sea is as unpredictable as ever, but so are you. Historians still argue how often Viking expeditions faced such fierce storms. But what's clear is the resilience of those who braved the waves, shieldmaidens and warriors alike. You wipe rain from your eyes and look ahead. The shore is close now, a dark silhouette against the morning light. Somewhere beyond those trees lies the next adventurer, perhaps just rest. Either way, you're ready. The shoreline draws near like a soft promise, the forest edging the water in a dark, whispering wall. The air smells of pine needles and damp earth, a welcome change from the salty bite of the sea. Your muscles ache with every stroke, but anticipation sharpens your senses. Landing always feels like a rebirth, a chance to stand firm on solid ground after the relentless sway of the ocean. Yrsa orders the sail lowered and the anchors dropped. The ship slows, grinding against the pebbled beach with a satisfying scrape. You step off last, boots sinking slightly into the wet sand, feeling the coolness seep through your leather soles. The crew fans out, weapons at the ready, but Yrsa's calm nod signals there's no immediate danger. You take a moment to stretch your arms overhead, loosening stiff muscles and savoring the silence, except for the distant call of seabirds and the gentle lapping of waves. Its peaceful hair a stark contrast to the chaos of the voyage. Mainstream historical fact: Viking raids often targeted coastal villages and monastic sites, but many voyages also included periods of trade, diplomacy, or simple rest. Vikings established seasonal camps and trading posts, especially in the British Isles and along the European coast, blending raiding with economic exchange. You wander toward the tree line, drawn by the scent of wood smoke curling through the morning air. Soon you come upon a small clearing, where a few villagers, mostly women and children, go about their daily chores. Their faces are curious but not hostile, and some even offer tentative smiles. Quirky fact: despite their fierce reputation, Vikings often mingled peacefully with local populations during downtime, exchanging goods, stories, and sometimes even spouses. Some historians suggest that shield maidens, like you, may have played unexpected roles as diplomats or cultural bridges, though this remains a lively subject of debate. You spot a woman weaving a basket near the edge of the clearing. She glances up, eyes meeting yours briefly before returning to her task. You remember how you used to weave back home, fingers nimble and quick, making baskets and fishing nets while listening to your mother's stories. A small pang of nostalgia tugs at your heart. Yrsa signals the crew to rest and refit the ship. You help gather fresh water from a nearby stream, the cold liquid refreshing after days at sea. As you fill the skins, you notice a group of children playing with wooden swords, their laughter ringing clear and bright. For a moment, you almost forget the weight of your own weapon at your side. Historians still argue about the daily lives of shield maidens, whether they fought constantly or balanced their roles with domestic duties. What's certain is that life in Viking settlements was multifaceted, full of rhythms that balanced work, war, and moments of quiet humanity. You sit on a fallen log, watching the village slowly come to life. The sun climbs higher, warming your back and drying your damp hair. It's a rare, gentle morning one to remember on stormy nights at sea. Solveig joins you, a mischievous grin playing on her lips. Think the monks we raided would trade us some of their mead if we came back. You laugh softly. Only if they want us to leave quietly next time. She chuckles, and for a brief moment, the weight of the world feels lighter. As the morning fades into afternoon, the crew busies themselves with repairs and gathering supplies. You join Yrsa by the ship's hull, where she inspects the patch over the leak from the storm. The pitch is holding for now, but she's already planning to visit the nearest smithy to reinforce it properly. A small part of you admires her pragmatism. You'd rather fight an army than a leaky boat. Nearby, the shipwright is hammering nails into fresh planks, his steady rhythm a soothing backdrop to the bustling camp. The smell of hot iron and fresh-cut wood fills the air, mingling oddly well with the scent of roasting meat from the village's cooking fires. It's an earthy symphony of survival. Mainstream historical fact: Viking ships were not just tools of war. They were also masterpieces of craftsmanship, often maintained by skilled shipwrights who traveled with the crew or worked at established coastal settlements. These craftsmen used locally sourced timber and specialized tools to keep the vessels seaworthy on long voyages. You walk over to a small group gathered near a fire, where the cook is preparing a meal from salted pork and barley stew. The aroma is comforting, reminding you of home and hearth. You catch snippets of conversation tales of recent raids, rumors of distant lands, and speculation about what awaits on the next journey. Quirky fact: Vikings were known to enjoy surprisingly sophisticated meals, including spiced dishes and sweet treats made from honey and berries. There's even evidence they imported exotic spices, showing their taste buds traveled far beyond their ships. Historians still debate whether these culinary habits were widespread or limited to the wealthiest. You sit quietly, letting the warmth seep into your bones, and watch the interplay of shadows as the sun sinks lower. Nearby, a group of children practices archery with blunt wooden arrows, their laughter light and carefree. You can't help but smile at their enthusiasm, a reminder that even shieldmaidens were once wide-eyed learners. Yrsa approaches, her expression thoughtful. We'll leave by dawn. There's more to see and take, but the winds favor us only for a little while. You nod, knowing the truth in her words. Viking life was a delicate balance between seizing opportunity and respecting nature's moods. Historians still argue about the extent to which Vikings planned their raids versus improvising based on weather and chance. What's clear is that adaptability was key to survival and success. As evening falls, you help secure the ship and prepare for the night. The sky fills with stars, shimmering cold and distant. You lay back on the deck, eyes tracing the constellations your ancestors once used to navigate these very seas. Solveig nudges you gently. Think we'll tell tales about this someday. You smile, feeling the calm of the night settle in if we survive. And with that hopeful thought, you close your eyes. Night deepens, folding the world in quiet shadows. The camp settles into a hushed rhythm, the crackle of the dying fire, the occasional creak of timber, and the soft breathing of the crew as they drift into sleep. You lie on your back, wrapped in a thick wool cloak, feeling the steady pulse of the earth beneath you and the distant whisper of the sea. It's a rare moment of peace, one you savor like a precious treasure. The moon rises, casting a pale silver glow over the trees and the sleeping village. You let your mind wander to the stories told by the skalds back home, tales of gods and heroes, battles won and lost, and strange creatures lurking beyond the known world. These legends feel alive tonight, blending with the rustling leaves and the murmurs of the night breeze. Mainstream historical fact: Vikings placed great importance on storytelling, with skalds serving as poets and historians who preserved their culture orally. These stories often mixed history with myth, creating a rich tapestry of identity and inspiration. A faint rustling catches your attention, and you sit up cautiously, hand resting on the hilt of your sword. But it's only a fox darting through the underbrush, its eyes reflecting the moonlight. You watch it disappear into the darkness, feeling a connection to the wildness around you. Quirky fact: some Viking burial sites include animal remains thought to be companions for the afterlife, suggesting a spiritual bond between humans and nature. Whether shieldmaidens shared these beliefs remains a topic scholars debate, but it paints a softer picture of Viking spirituality. Your thoughts drift to the shield you carried today, worn smooth by countless battles and voyages. It's more than protection. It's a symbol of who you are, fierce yet grounded. You recall the laughter shared with Solveig and the steady leadership of Yrsa, a trio bound by blood, steel, and trust. Historians still argue whether shieldmaidens were common or exceptional. But what's undeniable is the courage needed to claim such a role in a world ruled by sword and storm. You lie back down, letting the gentle rise and fall of your breath match the rhythm of the night. The stars wheel overhead, timeless witnesses to your journey. Sleep begins to pull at your eyelids, soft and insistent. You surrender to the dark, knowing that tomorrow will bring new challenges and new stories to tell. Dawn creeps in like a quiet whisper, softening the edges of night with pale light. You wake to the distant call of seabirds and the fresh scent of dew on pine needles. The world feels calm but expectant, like the breath held just before a leap. You rise slowly, muscles still heavy from the day's labors and the night's restless dreams. The camp stirs to life around you men sharpening blades, women tending fires, and children running barefoot between tents. Yrsa stands near the ship, her silhouette strong against the morning sky. Her eyes scan the horizon, alert for any sign of trouble or opportunity. You slip into your gear, the familiar weight of your weapons grounding you in the moment. Mainstream historical fact. Vikings often began their days early, using the morning light to prepare for voyages or raids. The routines balanced practical needs with rituals, including blessings or offerings to the gods for protection and favor. You move toward the village to help gather supplies, your footsteps quiet on the soft earth. Villagers exchange greetings and nods, some curious about the Shieldmaiden among them. You notice the woven tapestries decorating the longhouse walls, intricate patterns telling stories of gods, heroes, and nature. Quirky fact: some Viking women wore intricately woven woolen skirts fastened with large brooches, believed to signify their status or clan. While shield maidens are often imagined in leather and steel, evidence suggests they also embraced traditional feminine adornments, a blend still debated by historians. You pause by a small garden patch where herbs and vegetables grow in neat rows. The scent of wild garlic and dill fills the air, and you carefully harvest some sprigs to add to the day's meal. The simple act of tending plants feels grounding, a quiet counterpoint to the chaos of battle. Yrsa calls you over to discuss the route. The plan is to head northeast along the coast, where a rumored settlement might hold treasures or allies. The journey promises forests, rivers, and unknown challenges, a perfect test for your skills and resolve. Historians still argue about how much Vikings relied on oral intelligence versus written maps, but everyone agrees they were masters of reading the land and sea. As the sun climbs higher, you take a deep breath, feeling the promise of the new day fill your lungs. The road ahead is uncertain, but with shield in hand and comrades beside you, you're ready to meet it head-on. The forest beckons as you leave the village behind, a tangled mosaic of greens and browns stretching into the distance. Your footsteps press softly on the leaf-strewn path, muffling the sound of armor and weapons clinking lightly with each movement. Sunlight filters through the canopy, casting dappled shadows that dance as the breeze stirs the leaves overhead. Birdsong weaves through the air, a gentle soundtrack to your journey. The scent of moss and wildflowers mingles with the faint smoke from distant hearths. Every sense is alive, alert but calm, the perfect balance of warrior and wanderer. Mainstream historical fact: Vikings often traveled overland between rivers and coasts, using well-worn trails to move quickly and avoid detection. These forest routes were vital for raids, trade, and exploration, demanding keen knowledge of terrain and seasons. You pause near a bubbling brook to quench your thirst, the cold water rushing over smooth stones. Nearby, a small cluster of mushrooms catches your eye, their caps a vivid red speckled with white. You remember the stories from your childhoods. Some mushrooms are gifts, others tricks of the forest. Foraging was a skill learned young, vital for survival on long journeys. Quirky fact: some Viking sagas mention forest spirits or elves who could both help and hinder travelers. While historians debate how much of this was belief versus storytelling, the idea adds a magical flavor to your trek, a reminder of the blurred lines between myth and reality. You tighten your grip on your sword's hilt as the path narrows. The forest grows denser, shadows lengthening. Yrsa's voice calls softly from behind, reminding the group to stay alert but quiet. You follow instinct, scanning the underbrush and listening for anything out of place. Historians still argue about how much Vikings feared supernatural dangers versus real-world threats like rival clans or wild animals. Either way, caution was never wasted. As the afternoon wanes, you reach a clearing where wild berries grow thickly along the edges. The crew gathers to rest and gather food. You watch the sunlight catch on a spider's web, delicate and intricate, a tiny masterpiece in the vast wilderness. You catch Salvik's eye, and she grins. Bet you didn't think your shieldmaiden life would include berry picking. You laugh quietly, the sound blending with the gentle forest hum. In this moment, the warrior and the woman inside you walk side by side, each finding more in the other. The sun lowers behind the trees, painting the sky in soft hues of amber and rose. As you press onward through the forest's edge, the air cools, carrying the faint scent of salt from the sea you left behind hours ago. Your legs ache slightly, but adrenaline and determination keep you moving. You are part of something larger, wave of Viking spirit carving its path through time and terrain. The path narrows again as you enter a denser thicket where the branches seem to whisper secrets. You brush aside low-hanging leaves, the soft rustle barely audible under the chorus of cicadas. Somewhere in the distance, a raven caws, its sharp call slicing through the calm. Mainstream historical fact: ravens were significant in Viking culture, often seen as messengers or symbols connected to Odin, the Allfather god. Their presence on the battlefield or in nature was considered an omen, sometimes favorable, sometimes ominous. As you make your way, you feel the weight of your shield steadying your balance. The carved symbols along its rim catch the fading light, reminding you of home and hearth. The craftsmanship is exquisite, a blend of utility and art, silent promise that you carry more than just wood and iron. Quirky fact: some shieldmaidens personalized their shields with painted designs, runes, or even charms believed to protect them in battle. Whether these markings truly held magical power is still debated, but they certainly boosted morale and identity. Your thoughts wander to the tales Yrsa told last night about legendary shieldmaidens whose names echo through saga and song. Were they reality or myth? Historians still debate the frequency and status of these women warriors. But you know that today, here and now, your story is as real as any. A soft rustle ahead makes you pause. Yrsa signals the group to halt and crouch low. Your heart beats steady, but alert eyes scanning the shadows. It's only a deer, startled but unafraid, bounding away into the thick. You allow yourself a small smile, the tension easing. Nature, like battle, has its rhythms, moments of stillness, punctuated by sudden movement. As twilight deepens, the group sets up a modest camp beneath the trees. Fires are lit carefully, casting flickering warmth and light. You take a moment to stretch, the cool evening air brushing your skin. Salvig hums softly, a tune from back home, and you feel a rare bubble of contentment rise. Out here in the wilderness, amidst the unknown, you are both shieldmaiden and seeker, finding strength in each breath and step. Night settles gently over the camp, the canopy above filtering the stars into a shimmering mosaic. You sit by the fire, the warmth a welcome contrast to the cool air brushing your cheeks. The crackle and pop of burning wood are almost hypnotic, weaving a soft soundtrack that eases the sharp edges of the day. The men and women around you share quiet conversation, plans for the next leg of the journey, memories of home, and tales of past battles. You listen, letting their voices blend with the distant hoot of an owl. The familiarity of these sounds soothes the warrior within, offering a fragile peace. Mainstream historical fact: Viking camps were often simple yet organized, with fires carefully managed to avoid detection and tents arranged to provide shelter and quick access to weapons. Night watches were common, with trusted sentries keeping guard. You carefully prepare your gear for the coming day, checking the edge of your sword and the sturdiness of your boots. The shield rests beside you, a reassuring presence. Every item tells a story. Scars on the leather, worn handles, faint stains that whisper of battles fought and survived. Quirky fact: some Viking warriors carried small charms, or tokens perhaps, a carved bone or a piece of ambergleave to bring luck or protection. Whether these were genuine talismans or simple comforts is still up for debate among scholars. Yrsa shares a quiet joke about the last raid, her laughter ringing softly in the night. It's a reminder that even in harsh times, humor and camaraderie thrive. You smile, the warmth spreading beyond the firelight. Historians still argue about how much humor played a role in Viking warrior culture, but it's clear that resilience often came wrapped in laughter and shared stories. As you close your eyes, the firelight flickers, casting playful shadows that seem to dance just for you. The night hums around you, a lullaby of wood, wind, and distant waves. You let your breath slow, sinking into the calm. Tomorrow promises new paths, new challenges, but for now, sleep is a sanctuary. The first light of dawn seeps quietly through the treetops, gentle and unassuming, coaxing the camp from its slumber. You stretch, muscles still tender from yesterday's march, and take a moment to savor the crisp morning air. Dew clings to the leaves like tiny jewels, shimmering in the soft light. A new day has begun, carrying fresh hopes and unknown trials. Around you, the crew awakens slowly. Some tend to the fires, coaxing embers back to life, while others prepare a simple breakfast of dried fish and barley bread. The smell of roasting meat mingles with earth and pine, a grounding comfort after a restless night. Mainstream historical fact: Viking diets often included fish, grains, and preserved meats, with meals reflecting the seasons and available resources. Communal eating was a vital part of daily life, reinforcing bonds and shared purpose. You sit beside a small fire, savoring the warmth as you nibble on a piece of smoked salmon. The taste is smoky and rich, a reminder that even on the road, life carries moments of simple pleasure. Quirky fact: some Viking warriors believed that certain foods could enhance strength or bravery, like eating wild berries for stamina or drinking mead for courage. Whether this was science or superstition remains a lively topic among historians. Today's plan is to follow a river inland, hoping to find a trading post rumored to hold goods from distant lands. The thought sparks a flicker of excitement, perhaps rare spices, colorful textiles, or even exotic tales from faraway shores. Yrsa gathers the group, her voice calm but firm. Keep your eyes sharp and trust your instincts. Her words echo the quiet strength that has carried you this far. Historians still debate the extent of Viking trade networks, but it's clear they were far-reaching and vital to their culture's success. You pack your belongings carefully, checking your shield one last time. The forest awaits, full of secrets and stories. With a final glance back at the camp, you step forward into the day's unfolding adventure, heart steady and senses alive. The river's gentle murmur guides you deeper into the heart of the forest, its waters glinting like liquid silver under the brightening sun. You follow the worn path alongside, stepping carefully over roots and stones slick with moss. The air smells of fresh water and damp earth, a quiet promise of life and movement. Birds flit between branches, their calls a delicate symphony that fills the morning. You notice a flash of color, a kingfisher, darting low over the water's surface before vanishing into the foliage. Moments like this remind you how wild and alive this world is, a constant dance of survival and beauty. Mainstream historical fact. Vikings often relied on rivers for transport and communication, using shallow boats, called nares, to navigate inland waterways. These routes were crucial for trade, exploration, and sometimes surprise attacks. You pause to drink from the river, the cold water refreshing and pure. As you lift your gaze, you spot the faint outline of a settlement on the opposite bank. Wooden longhouses clustered beneath tall pines, smoke curling gently from chimneys. Quirky fact: some Viking settlements had elaborate fish traps built into rivers, using woven branches and stones to catch salmon during their migrations. It's a clever strategy that shows a surprising sophistication in resource management. Irsa signals to cross cautiously, eyes scanning for signs of hostility or welcome. You tighten your grip on your shield, heart steady but alert. The river crossing is swift but careful, the current cold against your boots. Historians still debate the extent to which Viking women participated in raids versus settling and managing homesteads. But your presence here speaks volumes either way. Once across, the group moves quietly through the settlement. The smell of baked bread and wood smoke mingles with the chatter of traders and farmers. Stalls display furs, pottery, and strange fabrics, evidence of far-flung connections. You trade a few coins for dried fruits and examine a carved bone amulet, its delicate patterns catching the light. Every object holds a story, a link to lives both near and distant. As the sun climbs, you find a quiet spot near the riverbank to rest. The water laps gently against the shore, a soothing rhythm that calms your mind. You allow yourself a brief smile. The journey continues, rich with discovery and quiet wonder, each step a thread woven into the tapestry of your Viking life. The afternoon light softens, casting long shadows that stretch lazily across the forest floor. As you prepare to leave the settlement behind, your muscles hum with quiet fatigue, but your spirit feels steady, woven together by the day's experiences, the river's song, the warmth of the fire, and the stories shared around it. You gather your belongings, feeling the familiar weight of sword and shield settle comfortably against your body. The crew moves with practiced ease, each step deliberate yet unhurried, as if the very rhythm of your march is a meditation on resilience and purpose. Mainstream historical fact: after long journeys or raids, Vikings often returned to their homesteads to tend the land, repair weapons, and care for family blending warrior life with everyday duties seamlessly. The path back winds through dappled light and shadow. Familiar now, the forest seeming less daunting in the glow of fading day. You notice small details, a cluster of wildflowers, a curious squirrel pausing to watch you, the soft rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. Quirky fact: some Viking shield maidens were known to practice healing arts using herbs gathered on journeys like this one. While less documented, this dual role of warrior and healer adds a rich layer to their story. Yrsa walks beside you, her voice low, as she recounts a favorite saga, the words weaving a soft spell of comfort and belonging. Historians still argue about the full extent of Shieldmaiden's roles, but what remains certain is the strength found in sisterhood and shared stories. As twilight deepens, the group finds a sheltered clearing to make camp for the night. The fire is smaller now, embers glowing like fading stars. You settle down, the cool earth beneath you and the vast sky above, a quiet universe cradling you close. You close your eyes, breath slowing, the day's memories folding gently into dreams. The shield rests at your side, steadfast companion on this journey through time and legend. The fire's glow dims as night fully embraces the forest, wrapping you in a velvet cloak of calm. The rustle of leaves and the soft whisper of wind through the trees become a lullaby, inviting your mind to drift gently away from the day's adventures. The steady rhythm of your breath matches the quiet pulse of nature itself, timeless beat that soothes and steadies. Your body relaxes into the earth, warmth from the embers still brushing your skin like a soft caress. You feel the lingering strength of the journey settle into peaceful fatigue, a reminder of all you have faced and overcome. The sword and shield lie close, silent sentinels in the stillness. You imagine the distant sea, its endless horizon whispering stories of voyages past and futures yet to come. The scent of pine and damp earth fades into a soft dreamscape, where the lines between history and myth blur into a comforting embrace. Here, in the quiet dark, you are both shield maiden and dreamer, warrior and wanderer. As your thoughts slow, the day's images become gentle, shadows, Yrsa's laughter, the glint of river water, the flicker of campfire flames, all folding softly into the night. There is no rush, no urgency, just the soothing cadence of a life lived fully, even in moments of rest. Let this quiet wash over you like a gentle wave, carrying away the noise of the waking world. You are safe here, wrapped in the soft breath of history's calm, and as sleep beckons, know that tomorrow holds new stories, waiting patiently in the dawn. Good night, and may your dreams be as peaceful as the forest's hush.